Are producing a product for the same reason that I'm farming, being better stewards of the land and making us more profitable in doing that.
One of the things that Pivot Bio has done so well is the way that they've handled their data lends a ton of credibility. We have individual grower data. We also have incredibly well-built, backed university study data.
Now you've seen enough data and you're seeing enough years behind Pivot Bio that people are beginning to say, this is something that's going to continue to make a big difference going forward.
We're changing the way we manage nitrogen based on that box. When you look at the millions upon millions of living organisms that's in that box, what that can do for our operation between now and harvest is amazing.
It's already a product that's going to be sustainable. It's already a product that's helping make sure you've got the nitrogen there and frankly, get more for our money.
When a company like Pivot Bio comes along and offers a really attractive product that protects ROI, but also allows us to feel like we're part of a solution to what's a very known problem, we're participating in a really significant change in agriculture. And that's fun to get excited about, you know?
Pivot Bioproven, we really want to back up and just look at what it is fundamentally. It's living organisms that make nitrogen for our corn plants.
Pivot Bio provides microbes that are going to adhere to the corn roots, and that will supply nitrogen then throughout the season.
What does that mean for me as a farmer? When I need my nitrogen, at the most critical point in the plant's life, I'm going to have a steady dose of nitrogen minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day.
And it's simple. Using the product is awesome. You dump in a couple of jugs and there you have 20 to 30 pounds of nitrogen. I mean, you couldn't get much easier than that.
So right now farmers are putting on nitrogen and having to think, oh, I could lose a certain percentage of that. So if you're going to pay for something, you want to have it there.
I get something that's going to help me make a return on my investment, but I also get something that's going to help me protect the water quality. It's multi-generational. It's protecting the soil. It's reducing our need on synthetically created nitrogen.
It'd be really nice to be able to put it on and say, I know I'm going to get that much. That's a big game changer.
I have 100% confidence in the company, Pivot Bio. They are producing a product for the same reason that I'm farming, being better stewards of the land and making us more profitable in doing that.
One of the things that Pivot Bio has done so well is the way that they've handled their data lends a ton of credibility. We have individual grower data. We also have incredibly well-built, backed university study data.
Now you've seen enough data and you're seeing enough years behind Pivot Bio that people are beginning to say, this is something that's going to continue to make a big difference going forward.
We're changing the way we manage nitrogen based on that box. When you look at the millions upon millions of living organisms that's in that box, what that can do for our operation between now and harvest is amazing.
It's already a product that's going to be sustainable. It's already a product that's helping make sure you've got the nitrogen there and frankly, get more for our money.
When a company like Pivot Bio comes along and offers a really attractive product that protects ROI, but also allows us to feel like we're part of a solution to what's a very known problem, we're participating in a really significant change in agriculture. And that's fun to get excited about, you know?
Pivot Bioproven, we really want to back up and just look at what it is fundamentally. It's living organisms that make nitrogen for our corn plants.
Pivot Bio provides microbes that are going to adhere to the corn roots, and that will supply nitrogen then throughout the season.
What does that mean for me as a farmer? When I need my nitrogen, at the most critical point in the plant's life, I'm going to have a steady dose of nitrogen minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day.
And it's simple. Using the product is awesome. You dump in a couple of jugs and there you have 20 to 30 pounds of nitrogen. I mean, you couldn't get much easier than that.
So right now farmers are putting on nitrogen and having to think, oh, I could lose a certain percentage of that. So if you're going to pay for something, you want to have it there.
I get something that's going to help me make a return on my investment, but I also get something that's going to help me protect the water quality. It's multi-generational. It's protecting the soil. It's reducing our need on synthetically created nitrogen.
It'd be really nice to be able to put it on and say, I know I'm going to get that much. That's a big game changer.
I have 100% confidence in the company, Pivot Bio. They are producing a product for the same reason that I'm farming, being better stewards of the land and making us more profitable in doing that.
One of the things that Pivot Bio has done so well is the way that they've handled their data lends a ton of credibility. We have individual grower data. We also have incredibly well-built, backed university study data.
Now you've seen enough data and you're seeing enough years behind Pivot Bio that people are beginning to say, this is something that's going to continue to make a big difference going forward.
We're changing the way we manage nitrogen based on that box. When you look at the millions upon millions of living organisms that's in that box, what that can do for our operation between now and harvest is amazing.
It's already a product that's going to be sustainable. It's already a product that's helping make sure you've got the nitrogen there and frankly, get more for our money.
When a company like Pivot Bio comes along and offers a really attractive product that protects ROI, but also allows us to feel like we're part of a solution to what's a very known problem, we're participating in a really significant change in agriculture. And that's fun to get excited about, you know?
Pivot Bioproven, we really want to back up and just look at what it is fundamentally. It's living organisms that make nitrogen for our corn plants.
Pivot Bio provides microbes that are going to adhere to the corn roots, and that will supply nitrogen then throughout the season.
What does that mean for me as a farmer? When I need my nitrogen at the most critical point in the plant's life, I'm going to have a steady dose of nitrogen minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day.
And it's simple. Using the product is awesome. You dump in a couple of jugs and there you have 20 to 30 pounds of nitrogen. I mean, you couldn't get much easier than that.
So right now farmers are putting on nitrogen and having to think, oh, I could lose a certain percentage of that. So if you're going to pay for something, you want to have it there.
I get something that's going to help me make a return on my investment, but I also get something that's going to help me protect the water quality. It's multi-generational. It's protecting the soil. It's reducing our need on synthetically created nitrogen.
It'd be really nice to be able to put it on and say, I know I'm going to get that much. That's a big game changer.
I have 100% confidence in the company, Pivot Bio. They are producing a product for the same reason that I'm farming, being better stewards of the land and making us more profitable in doing that.
One of the things that Pivot Bio has done so well is the way that they've handled their data lends a ton of credibility. We have individual grower data. We also have incredibly well-built, backed university study data.
Now you've seen enough data and you're seeing enough years behind Pivot Bio that people are beginning to say, this is something that's going to continue to make a big difference going forward.
We're changing the way we manage nitrogen based on that box. When you look at the millions upon millions of living organisms that's in that box, what that can do for our operation between now and harvest is amazing.
It's already a product that's going to be sustainable. It's already a product that's helping make sure you've got the nitrogen there and frankly, get more for our money.
When a company like Pivot Bio comes along and offers a really attractive product that protects ROI, but also allows us to feel like we're part of a solution to what's a very known problem, we're participating in a really significant change in agriculture. And that's fun to get excited about, you know?
Welcome to our program, and thank you for joining us as we share some exciting results from the field and Pivot Bioproven, a microbe that applies nitrogen to your corn crop throughout the growing season. My name's Lindsay. I'll be your host this evening from the Pivot Bio offices here in Ames, Iowa. 2020 has been an unusual year for everyone, but one familiar sight is seeing combines rolling in the field. This season has delivered some impressive harvest results from growers who use Pivot Bioproven on their crop, and we're excited to share those with you today. We've got a full program ahead with a fantastic lineup of speakers that will dig into Pivot Bio's performance in the field so far this season. Regional Technical Services Managers Mark Killum and David Hughes will share their observations from the season, and we'll hear from growers who are using Pivot Bioproven on their operations. We'll also have Special Guest Director of Agronomy Dan Poston, who will share his perspective on the results he's seeing from the hundreds of thousands of Pivot Bio acres nationally and the comprehensive year-on-year data that shows Pivot Bioproven's performance in the field. Also, be sure to stay tuned for Q&A with Mark and David as they'll answer audience questions about the exciting things going on at Pivot Bio. Before we get into the core of our program, let's watch just a short video that explains how our product works. Take a look.
Pivot Bio has introduced a new microbial product called Pivot Bioproven that captures nitrogen from the air, converts it to a form corn can use, and then applies this nutrient directly to the corn plant daily. This new product consists of nitrogen-producing microbes that are applied during planting. Once the seeds and microbes are together in the ground, the roots have immediate access to the Pivot Bioproven microbes. As the seed germinates and the roots reach out into the soil, the microbes adhere to the root structure, capture nitrogen gas from the air, convert it to ammonia, and feed it directly to the corn roots. Pivot Bioproven microbes are not washed away by weather events, nor do they volatilize into the air, which makes them a reliable nitrogen alternative to maximize yield potential.
With me now is Mark Killum, Technical Services Manager based out of Illinois. Mark, tell us about your territory.
Yeah, thank you. Been with Pivot Bio since mid-July of 2019. Since then, we've been hiring new sales reps and sales associates throughout the entire state of Illinois. We've got a really good footprint now of sales reps throughout the state. And grower adoption has been extremely well since coming on board with Pivot Bio. We've gone from pretty much the state that was behind everyone else in the Midwest because we just got commercial license last year. And since then, we've become one of the top states as far as overall grower adoption. And we're seeing some really good results out there. Growers are very excited about our product. And, I think the future is extremely bright for Illinois going forward with Pivot Bioproven.
Tell us about some of the results that you've seen in your area with Pivot Bioproven.
Yeah, they've been extremely good. Growers are really happy with what they see with our product line and what it's doing on their acres. Replacement of nitrogen opportunity is absolutely there. And growers are just trying to figure out how to integrate our product into their overall nitrogen program. But as far as customer satisfaction, we see really, really good results there. We're definitely seeing that 76% win rate attained throughout the entire state. And, we're seeing a lot of yield advantages anywhere from 5 up to 12 bushel to the acre advantage.
What are some ways that you've seen growers incorporate Pivot Bioproven with their existing nitrogen programs?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different programs that growers are implementing. Some of the really exciting results we're seeing where growers have our product by itself in furrow, and then they're utilizing other products like ATS, UAN, and such in the 2x2. Creates a really, really high win rate where a lot of those starter type products have such a good handoff early on emergence, get the roots established, and then you see that handoff about V4, V5 to our product line where we start to really show what we do, which is that mid to late season availability of nitrogen.
What observations did you see throughout the summer on acres treated with Pivot Bioproven?
Yeah, we've seen just a much more healthier plant, more canopy, wider leaf surface, more biomass of the roots. Our agronomy team, and I was with them at quite a few of the different plot locations where they were measuring stalk diameter and circumference, and there was absolutely not just a visual difference, but they documented quite a bit of difference there on how much more biomass of the entire plant there was. So we're obviously seeing the results of what our product line can do from V4, V5 and beyond. We've got some exciting results that we're going to be releasing soon around whole plant nitrogen study as well that continue for the second year in a row to show how much more nitrogen we're putting in that plant late season around R3, R4.
What was it like to see those observations in the summer turn into positive results this fall?
It was a great experience to be out there with the growers for the first time where they're experiencing our product and what it's doing on their acre. It's a nice educational tool to have them really experience what this new exciting technology does as far as capturing more nitrogen and putting it into the plant. And also just trying to build that relationship with those growers and our sales reps, so growers understand it's not just what happens in this one check. It's more about what happens in the entire field, bringing up the entire overall field average in some of those low-lying areas or some of the areas where nitrogen management is a little bit more of a tougher hill to climb for them.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank all the growers for the opportunity to work with them, and we want to continue to partner and work with those growers. And a big shout out and thank you to our entire sales team. We have continued to grow the footprint in Illinois, and I think we've got one of the strongest lineup of sales reps. And if any grower out there has not been contacted by our sales team, please reach out through pivotbio.com, and they can utilize our sales rep locator and those professionals are there waiting to assist them at any time.
Thanks, Mark. Now let's hear from grower Jeff Kosner and Pivot Bio rep David Bronner.
My name's Jeff Kosner, and we farm in central Illinois, close to 20 miles west of Springfield. We're a first-time user of Pivot Bioproven. We used it with a full rate of nitrogen this year, not really wanting to cut back on anything, but maybe enhance our nitrogen program. We did replace some of the 28% that we put on liquid nitrogen on behind the planter. And so what we did was we traded dollars out. Instead of putting down 7 gallons of 28% with our 3 gallons of sulfur, we cut out 4 gallons of 28%, which is the equivalent of about 10 to 11 units of nitrogen, and inserted the Pivot Bio. So what we did was a true trading dollars out. Instead of using the nitrogen, we cut it in half and went to put the dollars on the Pivot Bio, and we're very pleased with the performance of it.
My name is David Bronner. I'm with 21st Century Seed and 21st Century Ag. We are a seed company, and we also have an ag division that handles micronutrients and crop enhancing value added type products to help our customers reach their goal.
Nobody likes to cut back on nitrogen if they want to attain these 240, 250 bushel yields. Nobody wants to sacrifice that nitrogen and not know what the end results could be this fall. But for the most part, we were very happy with our end results and our yields this fall.
Anytime you can put a product on where it is right on the roots or right at the source of where the product, of where the plant is going to be pulling from, regardless of your CEC and regardless of your organic matter, that plant has a much higher chance of being able to perform to its genetic potential. However, when it is struggling and not getting the nutrients it needs and has nowhere to get before it gets to its anhydrous band, or if it's had undue way too much moisture, all the 1,000 elements that affect that plant, the Pivot Bio plan of keeping some nitrogen right at the root source, I think is very critical on marginal soil as well as high-end soil, because the marginal soil just does not have the nutrient holding capacity or the oxygenation many times that it needs.
Probably in 75% of our fields, we saw a yield increase with the Pivot Bio. In some fields, we saw no increase, but we did not see any decrease by cutting away some extra nitrogen that we normally put on. It was usually more on the more marginal soils where we saw a yield increase on the good flat black ground that I think has a lot of CECs and a lot of nutrients in it. We saw a little bit of a yield bump, but I think our nitrogen program, we've probably maxed out. And so now we're trying to make ourselves lower that a little bit and not have as much return on our investment. In some instances where we're on some lighter soils, we could see greener corn. We could see where it kind of enhanced it. What we're planning on doing is doing quite a few test strips this coming fall by reducing our nitrogen by another 20 to 40 units and seeing if we can get by and not have as much invested whenever we come into this coming spring.
I think there's a lot of upsides to it, and I think I'm pretty excited about the discussion on what the company is looking for in the future and what they plan to do, because these are the type of things that we are going to have to look at to stay sustainable in agriculture and protect that yield from day one. And those type of things we're just be changing the mindset. And I think we're on a good start with Pivot Bio.
My experience in general as a company has been real real easy to work with. Delivery, coordination of getting the product to the farmer. It's all been real easy. Haven't had to pay for the product until the product prove itself. So it's one of those things that you don't have to put your money up front. It's kind of one of those things that lets it prove itself, and then you pay for it in the end. It makes a buying decision when it's the first time that you ever used a product like this, and you initially have to pay so much right up front, not knowing if it's going to work. But the people at Pivot Bioproven will wait and make sure that everything works out before they charge you. So I think that made the buying experience a lot better.
Now I'd like to introduce David Hughes, Technical Services Manager based in Missouri. David, tell me about your territory.
Yes, thank you for having me on. Like Mark, I'm a technical services field manager, but I cover the state of Missouri and the states south of Missouri. Great area to work. Missouri has a tremendous amount of diversity in things like the soils and the regions that all drive how nitrogen performs. And so we have quite a diverse setup of not only farm management practices, but also the soil environments where we practice nitrogen management in corn. Again, I think one of the unique opportunities that we have in Missouri, being on the southern end of the Corn Belt, is that we have quite a bit of variability in our productivity potential and kind of how nitrogen works. And so Pivot Bio gives us a tool now to go to growers to bring solutions to some of the challenges that we face in our trade territory.
Tell us about some of the results that you've seen in your area with Pivot Bioproven.
Yeah, so this year's been exciting. Of course, I came on board in August 19th, and so the growing season had already been taking place. And so I was kind of hearing bits and pieces. One of the things that probably got me the most excited this year was hearing guys say that they were seeing a difference in the size of the plant early on in the corn season. That has now translated into, we're finding out as we're pulling in some of our data, up to an extra 1 ton to the acre of biomass where we use proven versus where we don't. This increase in plant size and health in season is an important thing, because the bigger the plant you have and the more leaf area you have, the more light you capture. And when you capture more light, that photosynthetic process drives more yield. The nice thing about Pivot Proven is we're doing that, but then at the same time, we've got the supply of nitrogen to feed that additional growth. And so that for me has probably been some of the most exciting stuff I've heard on the in-season, was what we were doing with, again, increased biomass and leaf area index across the field.
What are some ways that you've seen growers incorporate Pivot Bioproven with their existing nitrogen programs?
Yeah, so in Missouri, a fairly large majority of our growers put on a strong pre-plant base of nitrogen, and then we'll adopt some more innovative practices. Probably the most common practices are to do that strong pre-plant base of anhydrous or a dry spread, and then come back over the top later in season, either in a side dress form early on in that corn's growth life, or come back later pre-tassel after some more evaluation has occurred to determine the nitrogen health and kind of status of the corn. And then we'll come over either with a broadcast with a high clearance machine and or sometimes airplane to get that nitrogen level up to where we need it to finish out the corn crop. So in Missouri, what's happening as guys look at this technology and realize they have now at their disposal a biological supply of nitrogen right at the corn root, probably the one place we're looking to make a change is to either reduce and or at some point as our products replace more nitrogen in the corn plant with time, we'll reduce or get away with entirely that last application, that last postseason application that can be very expensive. One of the risks involved when we do these late season applications of nitrogen is that we put that dry nitrogen on either again with high clearance or an airplane. And then a lot of times in our state, we're praying and hoping for a rain to move that nitrogen to the root. The check's already been written. And so we're hoping to get a benefit of that. And a lot of times we don't because we don't get full movement of that entire amount of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer that we paid for to the root. That's where this tool kind of comes into play. And like Mark said, makes that handoff from our synthetic nitrogen fertilizer program to a supply to the corn plant that is right at the root and is not subject to losses due to heavy rainfall.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Just again, this is an exciting time in agriculture. There's things that come along about every 10 or 20 years that revolutionize how we do corn management and production. This is one of those things. We're at the very beginning and learning some exciting new things of how to deploy a technology that's going to improve our nitrogen management. And in Missouri, this has been a challenge for years. And so big thanks and shout out to the growers who are working with us and learning with us as we discover how to position the product and how to improve our nitrogen management programs using Proven. And then also a big shout out to our sales reps. We've got a team of sales reps in Illinois and Missouri that are second to none. And I'm excited to work with Mark and his team and my team to move this technology forward in corn production.
Thanks, David. Next, we're going to hear from some growers who used Pivot Bioproven on their farms this season. Take a look.
Mike Denton, Princeton, Illinois. We're standing out here in front of our family farm. We farm about 2,500 acres here 90 miles southwest of Chicago. Pivot Bioproven here today on our farm. We saw an 8 bushel yield advantage over the untreated check. That makes us really excited. Our ground is really good, and we weren't sure if we were going to see that kind of yield, but that was a big bump for us.
My name is Brian Tom, and I farm in southeastern Illinois. After seeing our preliminary results this year, we saw a 9 bushel advantage in one plot, and just about 30 minutes ago, we got into another plot and saw about a 6 bushel advantage.
Well, so far it's been a really good year. We've had a good harvest, probably one of the best, if not the best yields we've ever had on the farm. The Pivot Bioproven test plots went well, and so we were very pleased. We saw better yield in those plots than anything else that we had on the farm. So our test plot was about 5 bushels better per acre than the other corn that we had that just had starter fertilizer alone. And it was probably 15 to 20 bushels better than the corn without any starter fertilizer at all.
So the Proven really helps us if we know we have season-long nitrogen fixation from Proven, whether or not, as the saying goes. We can count on that, and it'll keep us from having to do an extra pass. And on those years when it rains a lot, we know it's still going to be there.
Growing season this year was almost perfect with one exception. We had a huge rain 3 days after we planted, 3 or 4 inches that fell in about 2 hours. So that set us back at the beginning. Now, of course, one thing with Pivot Bioproven is the nitrogen stays place. It's there whether or not, as the slogan says. So I felt confident that Pivot Bioproven is there. And we saw that in the field. We see that visually.
So getting large weather events after you put down some nitrogen, especially a couple weeks after it, if it's converted to nitrate, that's always disappointing to go through. You want the water, but you don't want that much water. You want it to be spread out nicely. And that's where Proven has really kind of almost alleviated a little bit of stress that goes along with those weather events. And I think it's helped kind of show its place on our farm with its ROI. You know, when you look at what it's replacing on synthetic nitrogen or adding to your yield, it's priced as a premium form of nitrogen, but it's pretty competitive, pound for pound for what it's delivering to a really well stabilized form of nitrogen.
So based on what we saw, because we saw the proven source of nitrogen, we could see that in the summer, and we saw this at harvest, it now opens the discussion of, should we change our nitrogen program? Should we put on less in the fall? Should we put on less in the summer? how does that work together? So it's more than just a discussion of yield. It's really a discussion of inputs as well. So that's really important.
Seeing the results we did here today of 8 bushel better with the proven versus untreated check allows us to go back and think a little harder about, are we going to dial back our nitrogen? Are we going to maybe not have an application that we made? I mean, those are ROI things that really add to the bottom line. Yield is one thing, but cutting things back also is really going to help. So, boy, I'm really excited just to see the results here today, and the possibilities that it would open up for next year is exciting.
I don't think farmers want to be wasteful. It's not in their nature to be wasteful or to harm the environment. And that's another great thing about Pivot Bioproven is because of how the mechanism of how it's working, it's staying right there on the roots. It has virtually zero opportunity to leach away from the corn plant. So it's a very safe form of nitrogen, both economically and environmentally. We're planning on incorporating this as a pretty standard part of our management plan moving forward.
Up next, we'll hear from Pivot Bio's Director of Agronomy, Dan Poston, with some preliminary national harvest results and the power of Pivot Bio's data.
As we went into 2020, our biggest challenge was to figure out methodology and techniques to really measure the performance of a nitrogen fixing microbe in the field. How do you measure that? How do you visualize that? How do you put numbers on it? So as we step back into 2019, and now we look at 2020, you're in the nitrogen fixing microbe business. You could not have asked for 2 better years to really evaluate your nitrogen fixing microbe. 2019 was a very high nitrogen loss year across most of the corn growing region and the US as far as that goes. We had saturated wet conditions early. A lot of that, those wet conditions really continued through most of the growing season. And so nitrogen loss was high. And our microbe performed quite well in 2019 under those conditions. 2020 was exactly the opposite. It was a year where we had really high nitrogen use efficiency early. We had warm, moist conditions, but not excessively wet. So not only did our synthetic nitrogen stay in the field, we also had high rates of nitrogen mineralization if there was significant organic matter present at a given location. So synthetic nitrogen stayed put, and mineralized nitrogen became pretty available. So that really occurred through about the 1st of July. And then many regions of the Midwest and other parts of the country really turned off into a pretty disastrous drought. So if a nitrogen fixing microbe could perform in a year where you really didn't use that much nitrogen early, and then you had yield limiting situations later, then you've got a pretty good read on the value of that microbe. To sum it up in its simplest form, in environments or areas of fields that lost nitrogen, we saw an effect of the microbe in yield. And we set those trials up so that they had 100% nitrogen, and they had minus 50 pounds of nitrogen in a separate area or a separate block. So if you look at, say, Pivot Bioproven in that 100% nitrogen environment, we're seeing responses maybe in the 2 to 4 bushel range. In 2019, that would have probably been double that. That would have probably been 4 to 8, maybe 9 or 10 bushels, because entire fields lost nitrogen in 2019. If you go to the reduced areas of those same trials, the response to Pivot Bioproven is well over 6 bushels per acre. So those reduced areas or reduced treatments you can think of as areas of fields that lose nitrogen in the field. And that's what I see as the real value of our nitrogen fixing microbes like Pivot Bioproven, is that they can help you recover yield in those areas of the field that are losing nitrogen for various reasons. Those may be sandy pockets that lose nitrogen to leaching or runoff, or poorly drained areas that lose nitrogen to denitrification. So it really is a nitrogen or a yield stabilizer tool across your entire field. We put a lot of effort into measuring microbe performance by methods other than yield. So did it increase plant size? Did it affect plant height? Did it affect leaf biomass, plant biomass? All measures of microbe performance. So to give you an idea of one data set there, we had customers send in whole plant samples from around R1 to R4. So they collect plants out of the field, proven treated and untreated, and they send those samples in, and we weigh those samples, dry those samples, analyze those samples for tissue analysis at a commercial lab. And we noted in those that about 70% of the time, those plants actually had more pounds of nitrogen per acre. So that was an indication that, hey, the microbe was present, it was doing something in the plant, and that the microbe had really set those plants up for success. As we've gone through this growing season and we've watched a ton of data come in that we did not really have in 2019. So a ton of soil data, a ton of tissue data. All of our whole plant sampling efforts, our leaf sampling efforts really have indicated that this microbe was present. It did what it was supposed to do, and it did it at a high percentage of locations. So from that standpoint, I'm really excited that the microbe got out there and it did what it was supposed to do.
Thank you, Dan. It's impressive to see the results from around the country and dig into that data on how Pivot Bioproven is making a difference on so many operations. Mark and David, after seeing all that data in action, how do you talk to growers about this exciting new way to deliver nitrogen to their crop?
A lot of what I refer to is our value proposition, where, you really start to talk about how our product is more predictable. It's more dependable. You don't have to worry about the leaching or volatilization with our product. And that's the real big difference maker when it comes to our product versus synthetic nitrogen. It's going to be there when they want it. Especially a lot of the things that Dan Poston works on in whole plant biomass study, where it shows R3, R4, where our product is still delivering more nitrogen to the plant. There's no other product out there that can consistently deliver that kind of dependability as far as nitrogen production.
Our goal at Pivot Bio is to improve nitrogen management and ultimately to replace synthetic nitrogen fertilizer as a source of nitrogen for corn crop. That is a very large and big goal. And the reason that we look at these things is because, number one, we already know that we write checks in farming that for synthetic nitrogen fertilizer where we don't get the result of that entire amount of money that we pay on that input, because at best we operate at about a 70% fertilizer nitrogen recovery efficiency. So the reason that happens and why we end up only seeing a 70% result on something we paid 100% for with synthetic is because of weather. We never know what the weather is going to throw at us, and the year-to-year variability in weather. And quite frankly, it's the amount of rainfall that occurs from when we apply the primary amount of our nitrogen until that corn hits the V6 growth stage. The amount of rainfall that falls in that window drives nitrogen loss. And it's true in Illinois, and it's even probably more so true in a big part of Missouri, because in Illinois, where we have the heavier soils, in the southern part of the state, the clay pan. Missouri, we have clay pan, and then we also have some prairie soils that are very heavy. We can get those soils to be very saturated. They don't drain, and then we end up losing nitrogen to denitrification. And that's a result of the interaction of that weather with that synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. With Pivot Proven, we go to growers now and we say, hey, we've got a tool in the toolbox. And this tool allows you to apply a part of the source of your total nitrogen for corn and its needs in a way that is completely weatherproof. and more so because it is not subject to loss. When we look back kind of at the big picture, we're doing a better job. We're acting as better stewards of our own money and our financial resources on the farm, and we're acting better stewards of our land and the environment, because the nitrogen ends up in the corn plat and not in surface and groundwater. And those are issues that were looked at in ag, and fingers get pointed. And now we have a proactive tool and a best management practice that we can take out there to the farm and in our states and show that we're doing the absolute best job we can to improve fertilizer nitrogen recovery efficiency. And the great thing about it, like Mark said, it's a value proposition where we're seeing anywhere from 5 to 13 bushel yield increase, and we're seeing a replacement value of nitrogen in cases where guys can replace. So it's not a management practice that we're how do you want to say, that we're feeling like we have to do, but we have a cost associated with doing it to be a good steward. It's actually a good stewardship practice that has a good return on investment with it, and those are hard to find in agriculture.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for spending time with us this evening to learn more about Pivot Bio and our nitrogen-producing microbial product for corn, Pivot Bioproven. If you'd like to learn more about how Pivot Bioproven can provide a more predictable, more productive source of nitrogen for your operation, go to pivotbio.com. There you can find a sales representative in your area and hear from other growers who've used Pivot Bioproven. Also, please join us for the Q&A session with Mark and David in just a few minutes. You can submit your questions in the Q&A or the chat feature on your Zoom platform. Before we begin the Q&A, we'll share a short video on why Pivot Bio is nitrogen's turning point. Take a look.
Just breathe. It's the essence of life. Every breath can give us energy, joy, and peace. Oxygen supports so much of our life, yet makes up precious little of our atmosphere. Almost 80% of the air is actually nitrogen. In the right form, it is one of the building blocks of life for humans, animals, and plants. The crops we grow rely on tiny microbes in the soil that turn nitrogen from the air into life. It's biology at its finest. As human life flourished and food production increased, our soils weren't able to keep up. So farmers relied on the only tool available, synthetic nitrogen fertilizer, to feed us all. Without it, half of the world's food supply would not exist. Yet synthetic nitrogen's massive scale is on an Earth-altering course, accounting for 2% of all greenhouse gas emissions. This chemical process pulls nitrogen out of the air and transforms it into fertilizer, with almost half never reaching the crops it was intended to fertilize. Nitrogen ends up in our waterways, contributing to dead zones in our oceans and lakes. Synthetic nitrogen has also had an unintended impact on our soils. The microbes stopped converting nitrogen into fuel to help grow our crops. Faced with the challenge that we must produce 50% more food by 2050, our future urgently needs a better way. And farmers deserve a better nitrogen right now. We are at a turning point. Pivot Bio has introduced a revolutionary biological product that harnesses nature's ability to deliver plant-ready nitrogen without the negative side effects of synthetic fertilizer. By empowering farmers to grow crops in a better way, we'll boost farmer productivity, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve air and water quality, and help sustainably feed our growing global population. By using our microbes on just half of the corn, wheat, and rice crops around the world, we'd have the power to reduce emissions equivalent to planting 16 billion trees, all by changing the way we deliver nitrogen to plants. This is nitrogen's turning point.
Well, welcome everyone to the Q&A portion of this presentation. Again, my name is Mark Killum, joined with David Hughes. And again, I want to thank everybody for taking time to log on, register, and watch our program for this evening. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this, and looks like we got our first question is, how many pounds on average does Pivot Bioproven replace? And that's a pretty easy answer. It's a 25-pound product. That's what we guarantee through our performance guarantee, although that is equivalent to up to 40 pounds of synthetic because our product does not leach or volatilize. Through the university data from Illinois, University of Illinois, Iowa State, and such, they show about 18% of nitrogen loss takes place through volatilization and leaching on synthetic nitrogen. So you would actually have to apply 40 pounds of synthetic to end up with 25 pounds of nitrogen. So again, that's why we say it's a 25-pound product equivalent to 40 pounds synthetic. Dave, I'll let you take the next question here. How many pounds? Well, looks like that's the same one. Let's see here. Can the product be applied to corn post-emerge, hoping there is a rain soon to take it down to the roots?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, the way that Proven works, it's a strain of bacteria that's successful only when it colonizes the corn root. And so our only method of application at this point is to put it on in furrow. We use in furrow application, kind of liquid application equipment on planters, so that the minute that radical emerges and the corn roots emerge out of the seed, the bacteria can begin the colonization process. So at this time, it is not a post-emerge product, and it's not a product that we would apply on the soil hoping for infiltration to the roots.
Good deal. I'll take this next one here. What products are incompatible with Pivot Bio when applied in furrow? Anything with sulfur, ATS, that is not compatible. Copper, a lot of forms of UAN. We do have compatibility with 1034O. Bottom line is we want to do these samples and get David, myself, our agronomy team, a sample. We can have that tested and do some compatibility testing for you. But we do have compatibility across the board with most products that you would want to put in furrow. A lot of those products I mentioned, you don't want to be putting those in furrow anyway because they degrade the original seed treatment, let alone the germ of the seed, so to speak. So anything you would want to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, no, Mark, you hit it on the head. Essentially, the big three no-nos are high salt content in furrow or tank mixed. Again, like Mark said, a sulfur or a starter containing sulfur, and then copper, because copper is a bactericide. So we don't tank mix those things. And probably an important thing to understand is that it really is a tank mixing issue. And so we don't want the Pivot Proven a live bacteria resident in a tank with those compounds. But then a lot of the other things that we use, like 9% chelated zinc, your 318-18s, your 624-6s, the high grade 1034Os, all of these are compatible. Fungicides that are now becoming more popular in furrow are compatible. If somebody want to put capture in furrow, we have a compatibility, we're fine there. So really it's compatible with quite a few of the things that we actually use successfully in corn planting. It's just a few of these things we kind of have as watch outs, and again, it's more of a tank mix issue than what's happening in the trench.
Good deal. Got a question here I'll answer. Do you recommend cutting back my pre-plant nitrogen by 40 pounds and adding Pivot Bioproven, or should I use it on top of my current pre-plant program? I really leave that up to you, the grower. I mean, there is no defined way to find the true value proposition of our product. a grower can cut back their fall applied. They can cut back their side dress application, a wide drop. Now, keep in mind, this is equivalent to up to 40 pounds. So it's 25 pounds that we guarantee through our performance guarantee program. So if you go beyond 40, that we are not going to guarantee. So just keep that in mind. But that there is that opportunity out there, and we would like growers to do some protocols to look at our product from that standpoint. Me personally, that I've seen work the best is utilizing products in the 2x2 manure. Those products were not, to me, I don't want to replace or remove out of the program. But your fall applied, your side dress, your wide drop type applications, those are definitely things I think we need to be looking at to replace. Dave, here's a question. What if I don't have in-furrow? Is there another option to use Proven?
Yeah, currently the only product that we have is an in-furrow product. One of the great things about what Pivot Bio has done is we have an equipment reimbursement program called the Enlighten program. We do have dollars available to provide assistance for growers who want to secure and install liquid application in-furrow equipment on their planter. This program has been extremely successful. A lot of growers have gotten excited about it. It gives them an opportunity to put something on their planter they were going to use anyway, to maybe try out some different starter products or other things, and then it works well with the Proven. And then over time, as we look down the road and future generation products, we'll probably be looking at some other platforms. But for now, the product needs to be applied in furrow.
Now I'll answer these next two. First one, is liquid the only formulation? Yes, currently today, that is the only formulation we have. So what we had last year is what we'll have again going forward, which is Pivot Bioproven, a liquid that you apply in furrow. Now, the next question where gentleman asks about Gen 2. And what kind of version will that be? And that is going to be an enhanced Gen 2 product. From what we hear, you just get more consistency with that product. It is going to bring you more pounds of nitrogen to the plant. We don't have a lot of specifics yet, but we will have some other opportunities with that product going forward. But today, what we're talking about is Pivot Bioproven, which is our 25-pound in-furrow liquid product. Can you see the next question there, Dave? It's a compatibility with Enzyme due to it being a microbiocide.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've had this asked quite a few times. When we put our pre-plant anhydrous down, a lot of times we use Enzyme, which is a bactericide. The Enzyme, it's been touted in research as being fairly specific to certain strains of bacteria that actually are responsible for the conversion of ammonium nitrogen to nitrate, which is why we use it to kind of keep things in the ammonium form. Whether or not it has full spectrum bactericide capabilities, I've seen kind of work kind of pointing to both ways. But as far as how it works with Proven, here's my thoughts. When we go out and we put anhydrous, most of the time we're putting it on earlier, considerably earlier than planting. There are a few occasions where it's put on right ahead of planting, but a lot of times when we put anhydrous on right ahead of planting, we're not using the Enzyme. At least in Missouri, it seems like the Enzyme seems to be more with our earlier applications. So there's a considerable amount of time between Enzyme application and when the Proven would go in furrow. And then the other thing is that with an anhydrous application toolbar, that Enzyme is being applied 7 to 8 inches deep, usually on most common toolbars. Again, it's being applied anywhere from 4 weeks to up to 4 or 5 months earlier. I've seen anhydrous going out already, believe it or not. And that gives a lot of window for that N-serve to play out and not really impact the proven bacteria. Plus, it's not going to be in the same zone. The N-serve is going to be 7 or 8 inches down in the anhydrous knife tract. The bacteria is going to be right in the seed trench at the seed. I don't think we're going to have a big problem with that.
Very good. Well, I think, well, we just got one. I have had questions about compatibility of proven with a 3-rive 3D in-furrow system. Do you have experience with this combination? Dave, you want to take that one?
Sure. So with, I want to make sure, I'm going to look at the question myself. Okay. So again, to date, our compatibility testing has shown that when we use bifenthrin or capture, we do not have an issue in furrow with the typical liquid formulations. The only thing, and I don't have myself any data or anything behind me on the 3D or the Thrive program, but because that is a foaming technology, if we were to put proven in with that foaming expands the surface area of the liquid, which is really good for insecticide because it puts that kind of increases the surface area for the effectiveness of the bifenthrin to do that second kind of layer or perimeter of defense around our seed treatment. The problem is it might take the bacteria with it in 3D foam, which takes it conceivably away from the root early on. So we would still have a little bit at the root, but we might move some of the bacteria away from the root. My suspicion is with that technology, what we might see is a little bit slower rate of colonization and possibly less effectiveness of the proven microbe, simply because we've moved it away, or a lot of the colony forming units of the bacteria away from the root, which it needs to be able to live off of and feed off of to be successful.
Good deal. I see one just came across, Dave. Can proven be used through some sort of injection system? And the answer to that is yes. There's some really, really good injection systems out there. Ag Excel's got some really good stuff, some good delivery systems there as far as an injection system. Surefire. I would look and find those reputable dealers. If you don't know one, we can try to help you out. But I think that injection system is absolutely a terrific way to go. Dave, what is the recommended application rate per acre?
So we the proven is applied at 12.8 ounces, which is 1/10 of a gallon per acre for 30-inch row corn. So on 30-inch row corn, it's a 12.8 ounce acre use rate. Easy. A nice thing about that, it's easy to remember because 1/10 of a gallon. And then each jug that we pour into the starter tank will do 40 acres at that rate.
And along that lines, if you want to answer this one too, how much of carrier do you recommend?
3 to 5 gallons. And that can be the starter or other things you have. Doesn't have to be 3 to 5 gallons of water, but as long as we've got compatible carriers, whether it's with water, with not, or a little bit of water and some other stuff, but 3 to 5 gallons. And we were talking about the injection systems earlier. The way that those work, the injection system will just actually, what it allows you to do is keep the proven separate, so you don't have any tank compatibility issues. It then ejects it into that carrier line coming from your original starter tank, kind of in between that and the manifold distribution system. And so you've got a way to put the proven in. It ends up in that 3 to 5 gallon an acre stream, and yet it's not being tank mixed if you use one of those type of systems like Ag Excel has.
Another question, what handling steps are there to Pivot Bioproven on the farm? Once you receive our product, it's going to be inside a bladder, a breathable bladder that's inside double boxed, basically. And that's to protect it against UAV rays, different temperature fluctuations. Now, once you receive it in its packaging, you've got about 7 weeks or so. And it's got a expiration date on there. And our individual is in charge of shipping and manufacturing. He is keeping track of those expiration dates for us. So if you have late planning, he's going to know about that, and he's going to get that product exchanged out at no cost. Now, once you open that package up and you dump it into your tank, you've got 24 hours at that point in time to get it in the ground. So you do have to do some planning. You do have to make for sure you're ready to go. But if comes a big rain, you have issues with your in-furrow system, any kind of issues out there, we do replace product for free. So you call Dave or I or your sales rep, sales associate, and all we're going to ask back to you is how much do you need and how soon do you need it? What we like to do is keep product on hand with a lot of our sales reps. So in the heat of the moment, they have that ready to get it to you so you can keep moving and getting it in the ground. Another question, have you seen any yield increase from increasing the rate of proven?
I have not. Yeah. So right now, if you think about the way it works, it's a little bit tricky. It's not like a liquid or a fertilizer or nutrient formulation. What you do when you apply a live bacteria is you apply colonizing, forming units of bacteria that then, as long as they're getting the food and what they need, they start to multiply and grow. So the rate of proven is to get the right amount or base amount of those colony forming units in the soil on the root, and then let them take off. And so the success is going to be driven more by effective root growth and good conditions for that bacterial viability than it is going to be whether I throw more colony forming units into the soil. So it acts a little bit different than, say, chemicals or fertilizer, where we might increase a rate and then see something different. Here, the 12.8 ounce use rate gets us where we need to go if everything else works right as far as corn root growth and soil conditions for that bacteria viability.
I see a question here. Do we have 2020 yield data available on trials? We will have that data available. Right now, we are starting to receive an influx from our growers that have used it this past year. All that data goes into intent. We work with them. They're a third-party company that puts all of our data sets together for us, and they are currently going through all that right now. So we should have a lot of this to share quite soon, quite a bit earlier than last year is the plan. We've got the university data that should be coming, from what I hear, a little over a month, and we do have some new data from precision planting as well. Year over year, we're going to have a lot more data to look at. So hopefully we're going to start to release that here in the next coming weeks. Dave, can it be mixed with other microbes or enzyme products?
Yeah, so these things tend to be specific. I'd say there's quite a few that we could successfully mix with, and I'm sure already have been. If there's ever a question about a product compatibility, then all we need to do is we need to get a sample of that product through your sales rep or myself or Mark. And then fortunately, Pivot Bio is investing in a compatibility lab in St. Louis, which is right in between our two states. And so as we go down the road, if there is something of question that we want to test compatibility with, we can take and test that in that lab once that lab goes online, which is projected towards the end of the year. But right now, I haven't been told of any specific microbes or enzymes that we're not compatible with.
Here's an easy question. Do you foresee Proven selling out like it did last year? And that answer is very simple. No, that's what they tell me. Now, not to say we want to be putting off getting our orders in, especially if you are interested in the Enlighten reimbursement program. We really stress everybody to get that done, do the research on the equipment you need, get it ordered and get it on the planter in time. Maybe even beyond that, another incentive is our $2 per acre savings for signing your purchase order. So your sales rep, sales associate submits your order, you receive a purchase order, and by getting that e-signature done, it's basically you saying, yes, I commit to wanting to plant this amount of product. If you get that done before December 31st, you can earn an additional $2 per acre savings off that list price. So we stress everybody get that done. And what that will do is allow us to send a demand signal to our manufacturing. And that way we can hopefully have some to sell all the way to planting this year. And we do have the infrastructure to do that this year. So are you guys involved in the Beck's PFR trials? Dave, you know that one?
Yes, yeah, we are. I've actually seen, I used to work with Beck's and have a lot of respect for the Practical Farm Research Program. My understanding is that Proven, as well as a couple other products, are in a nitrogen, kind of a nitrogen management trial at some of their locations. So I'm looking forward to it as well to see what comes of the Beck's PFR data.
Dave, I'll let you take this next one. Do you recommend a higher rate on 20-inch rows?
I knew that was coming. So my understanding, we're still, again, if you think back to what we were talking about earlier, you're looking at trying to get enough colony forming units out there to successfully populate and live off the corn roots. And what you hope is that you end up with way more bacteria than you originally applied. It makes sense. I have not seen any myself yet 20-inch data, but what I'm telling guys is we probably better be somewhere in the 20 to 21 ounce rate if we're going to go on 20-inch corn, because if we say we need the base rate of about 12.8 ounce per acre when we're looking at getting it on 30-inch rows, then we're going to need about 21 ounces to get per acre to get the same base rate on every row if we go to 20-inch rows. So we do have, these are things we can discuss one-on-one. If you have 20-inch corn and you want to kind of visit on that, just reach out to your sales rep and then reach out to myself and Mark, and we'll figure out how to get that accomplished.
Are there any native soil bacteria that would act as a predator to proven bacteria? Dave, and you can chime in on this too, but I am not aware of any. They would have been brought to our attention from the product and agronomic groups, but I am not aware of any. Dave, any thoughts there?
No, my guess would be probably not. What happens with bacteria in soil is that it just ends up being a competition for food and resources. And the nice thing about the Proven, it's going to already be on a corn root, and it likes to live off of a corn root. And most of the other bacteria in the soil are doing other things. So I'd say we're okay there.
Is there any performance difference on no-till ground compared to conventional till ground? And my experience, no, I'm just not seeing that. I don't think we have any data sets that really, are at that kind of a granular level that are separating anything out like that to raise any red flags one way or the other, any differences. Dave, any takeaways that you've heard?
Yeah, I right now, I'd say for myself, it's too early to evaluate. It, wouldn't surprise me if maybe we see some performance differences in certain soil types that respond better in different tillage regimes and moisture regimes. It probably has more to do with how the tillage is affecting moisture and root growth, and whether or not we have soil compaction or more soil compaction under any of the situations affecting root growth that will ultimately have an impact on performance. So right now, I'd say the data that we're looking at is across both types of tillage and is pretty consistent.
And another question, how can it be used on wheat? We do have a wheat program that we've launched strictly for spring plant wheat. We're currently looking at the data for hard and soft red winter wheat. The biggest question there that they're trying to find out is, will that microbe overwinter? Will it make it through harsh winters and still be there when you need it come spring, and then help out the plant? So we're working towards that. We would like to see something for hard and soft red winter wheat, but right now it's only for spring planting wheat at this time. Are there any products like sugar or molasses that would increase the rate at which the bacteria would grow and spread? Dave, you want to take that one?
Yeah, right now I don't have any way to say whether it's yes or no, but this bacteria likes the carbohydrates and the sugars that the corn root puts out. And as long as that corn root's doing its job, then the bacteria is going to thrive. Whenever we can put the bacteria in a favorable environment, then that's how we're going to maximize its viability and maximize its performance as a nitrogen producer. So it'd be interesting to test. That's where I'd be on that. I'd like to just, take some and try it and see if we get an actual, better increase on our nitrogen input from the bacteria with something like that.
Does delayed germination due to cold, damp soils have any effect on colonization of proven in the roots? We are experiencing some of this, yeah. That's something that we had not seen before in the last few years, and colonization might have got affected by seed that sat there for 2 weeks or more. And in a lot of these cases that I seen, from whether it be a plot or right in a combine with a grower, you had a lot of issues out there on stands. It just wasn't a really good situation overall. But if it's going to be hard on the seed, on germination, hard on that seed applied insecticide, it's going to be hard on our product too. It's not completely invincible is the bottom line. So
yeah.
Any issues with screen mesh on filters, or is this a true liquid that should go through the system okay? Dave?
Yeah, by itself, it should go through fine. So the only time we would have an issue is if we had a compatibility issue where we put it with something, and when we, whatever it is we added in the tank, those two together ended up with more of like a suspension type of atmosphere or environment in that tank, and in that case there could be, but the proven goes right through. It's a liquid.
Let's see, as corn root architectures vary in size, will that change way proven produces nitrogen? We're even seeing this hybrid response. There is definitely some distinctions there. And a lot of that could have to do with how much of a root system or how much biomass is there. The more roots, the more biomass, the more of a home, the more food the exudates it's putting out to allow colonization. So I don't see why that would not help our microbe thrive and perform even better. Dave, do you know if our product is compatible with quick roots?
I don't. I'm not sure. I think quick roots is like a couple different other bacteria, if I understand that right. And maybe some. If it is, it's probably fine. Again, our only no-nos on compatibility are can't have copper, can't have sulfur because of the grade when we make, or the way that we grade sulfur into starter fertilizer. It causes a grind, it causes sharp edges, and then not high salt. So as long as the quick roots doesn't have those three things going on, my guess is we won't have an issue.
Another question, will proven live longer in a stainless starter tank or poly tank? Bottom line is, it doesn't matter what type of tank. When you open up that package and you put it in any tank, you've got 24 hours, period. that's where we just have the amount of information through our studies that we know we have the best viability, best success rate for that microbe to be alive, to adhere to the roots, embed itself into the root epidermis, and start to do its thing. So doesn't matter if it's a poly tank or a stainless steel. How sticky is proven? When used in an injection system, do you have to rinse the system out, or do you let the planter sit for a few days? Dave, you know?
Yeah, I don't. To me, it's a good practice anyway. Whenever I, run, that kind of equipment, if it's sitting, we'll rinse it out. The Proven itself isn't a real sticky product. It's more like it's a pretty nice flowable liquid. But when you let something sit and it's got sunlight on it, if it's been tank mixed with something else, you know how that stuff gets. So, my opinion is, if I get going again, I like to get stuff cleaned out and and ready to roll for the next round.
Very good. Yeah, I think we already discussed or answered the 20-inch row questions. So looks like we're going to wrap it up here. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Get on pivotbio.com if you want more information. That's where you can access our sales rep locator. And Dave, any last words?
No, I just really appreciate everyone's participation. For those of you that are still on, I strongly encourage you to consider the proposition that we have here, and we're gonna prove ourselves to you not only as a product but as a company and as a sales force. And there's some important incentives that come about by the end of the year. So if you're thinking about doing this and you haven't yet, get with a sales rep or get in touch with us so that we can get you the best price point going into 2021 growing season.
Terrific. Well, thank you again, and hope everybody has a very good evening. Take care.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Yeah.